Well, hello everybody. Nice to see you all, and nothing's new in non-duality. Yeah, it doesn't start fresh every year and then build up to a giant crescendo on December 30th, 2021. It's just always available at all times, right where you are, because you're not actually there, with no requirement necessary to meet it except for the ones you believe. Yeah, so really a lot of like Ramana, I think you were just showing pictures of Ramana. Ramana, some of his writings that I've read, it's more about an undoing than a doing. Yes, so you you don't gain new ideas, you give up old ideas. Yeah, and it's not a giving up old ideas; they just drop. Yeah, so and the statement of Ramana also is the greatest mystery is reality wanting to attain reality, being ourselves reality. Yeah. Now, it's almost impossible to believe yourself to be reality as Paul or Connie. Yeah. But it's completely possible to recognize you're not Paul. And then you realize being ourselves reality. Yeah. Instead of trying to look for what you are with what you are as what you're not, why not just pay a little attention to the activities in the head that are constantly using or being used to reinforce this idea of being the doer when doing occurs, yeah? Or they're the doer, or if I'm not the doer and they're not the doer, then God's the doer. But there's always a noun that seems to be necessary to be before the verb with this logic and this narrative we listen to a lot. So the whole underlying rug getting pulled from out from underneath us is being ourselves reality. Now, if you don't have a sense of that, and there's a strong belief that maybe you were reality once, but you did something to lose it, or you've never been reality, but there is a possibility you can arrive there if you work really hard and stuff like that, then I'm sure there's other Zooms you could go to that would be supportive of that. But why we're not supportive of things is because if you're left with your own devices, you'll see they're not your own devices. Yeah? I mean, understanding is going to lead you to the realization that understanding doesn't do it. Yeah? Uh, you know, you can focus as much as you want, but it doesn't shrink the panoramic space. Yeah, it's just there, here. And so what happened with me is just, I lived like a very extreme dualistic swing. I was one way seemingly, and then I became a drug addict seemingly, and then I swung out of that into spirituality. And then basically, it was just banging into walls, and then something just stopped the little pendulum, and something downloaded, and then I got struck sober, which was incredible, and that's lasted for 33 years. And then after that, being struck sober, I pursued everything the same old way. There was an assumption that I am Paul and I'm going to improve Paul or get to a bigger Paul or a greater Paul. And I worked pretty hard. I wouldn't say I was a great spiritual seeker, but I don't see much difference in drug addiction seeking as spiritual seeking. And as a drug addiction seeker, I was primo, top of the line. I'd be up there with Hanuman, the fucking monkey god, on the level of devotion to that way of life. I surrendered everything to it. I'd do anything for it. I would debase myself to incredible levels of how low you can go with the hopes of having it, getting a little dosh on from the cocaine. And and I saw a fundamental flaw, F-L-A-W, with the accent. People think I'm saying flaw, F-L-O-O-R. So I gotta be clear. Flaw, yeah. There was a basic flaw of the premise I was living from. That's what needs to be questioned. Yeah. Of course, sometimes our behavior needs to be questioned, but in my case, that's been corrected by a way of life called recovery. That's corrected a while ago. I'm not burning down houses or fucking plotting how I can sneak into my neighbor's house and steal something. I'm just sort of whatever, like a cow grazing all day, like a free range alcoholic. I'm just roaming around, just not doing much, not causing any trouble. So basically, this premise, I always started from every journey from this premise, and the premise is off. That's all. Yeah. I can't use what I am to find what I am. It just doesn't work. Yeah. And so when I heard these sort of invitations from dead people like Huang Po and Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj and a number of Zen people, Chinese Zen, and they just stopped me in my tracks, and there was a pause in my immediately getting into action, and then I saw where I started from, and that was suspect. Yeah. And I became convinced of the message of non-duality, being ourselves reality. I don't know what reality is, but I do know what I'm not. Yeah. And so, and that's been sufficient enough to allow new sight to take hold, and basically non-duality, the underlying premise, has been the bedrock of my life for years. Yeah, it's like the last answer, and I had never run into a last answer, and yet this is it for me. And the last answer is like an unspoken yes, and the last answer takes the need for any other answer away. Basically, yeah. I don't have much curiosity concerning the topic of spirituality. I don't. If you took a blood test and you looked for any signs of spirituality, it would come up 0.000. There'd be no signs of any movement towards a metaphysical goal. Yeah. Just, there's not a drop of transcendence in me. And I've come to realize, in this case, the real liberation was from the need to be liberated, really. I think that's a real, that's a many-linked chain of slavery, trying to become liberated as what you're not, when it's liberation from what you're not as what you're not. Yeah? So we don't have a huge platform, so we can stay pretty true to how the message landed. And we're not trying to sell it, so we don't add too much shit on it, really. And basically, it's just a dog shit awareness that we are awake. Here, we may seem to be asleep to that fact, or we may seem to be awake to that fact, but it's a fact, yeah? And being ourselves reality really explains a lot of mysteries, yeah? Because I was wondering why, when I was a kid, went to a Catholic school, and once a week they would spend some time teaching us about God, and they'd always talk about the three attributes of God, which was it's omnipresent, it's omniscient, and it's omnipotent. So it's all powerful, all knowing, and everywhere. And then I would really sincerely wonder, why am I not running into it? I don't. If it's everywhere, why I'm running into people I don't want to see. Why am I not running into God if it's everywhere? Yeah, have you ever asked that question? Maybe it's you. You know, maybe the party is great. It just sucks when you get there. Maybe it is. Yeah. So maybe if you could not go to the party and realize you're already at the party, it may go a lot better. It may be great. It's the belief that you got to get to the party that makes it suck. Yeah. Yeah. You and I are freaking powerful. If you don't think so, you make shit out of nothing all day. My head makes shit out of nothing all day. Yeah. That would be, if you raise someone from the dead, you would be seen as something. I don't know. That would be a miracle, but you're making shit out of nothing all day. That's even a greater miracle. Because when Lazarus was brought back from the dead, he had been alive once. He actually had been alive. We're making stuff out of nothing all day. Yeah. I mean, I go through a number of phone calls, and they're never located in here and now. They cannot escape here and now, but the topic is not of here and now. It's of there and then. Yeah? And how are you going to answer that? How are you going to solve an imaginary problem? How? If you try to apply a solution, that gives reality to the imaginary problem. Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. So, how do you deal with what's not happening? I don't know. You'll find out. Maybe you'll have a couple of dance steps. Maybe you'll take a leisurely walk. Who knows? But there'll be... Your dealing with it won't give it a reality it doesn't have. Yes? Because not knowing being ourselves reality, we're giving reality away all day. We are. We're taking shit that isn't real to be appearing to be real. We are. Yeah? Most of it is in the thought system. If you look at it, if I was going to branch out into a new career, let's say I become a psychiatrist or psychologist, I would specialize in what's not happening. Yeah? And I'd only work one day, maybe for my whole career. And I'd get all these people signed up. They all think they're going to get a 60-minute session. They're going to walk in and they're going to start bitching about what's not happening. And I'll say, Mr. Smith, that's not happening. See you next week. Yeah? That would be it. I'd go through 60 customers. I could probably rest the whole year. Yeah? Because most of the stuff, most of what seems to disturb us is actually not happening. We bring it, we give it the effect it delivers to us. We give it the effect. Yeah? We give it the meaning it has. I think the Course in Miracles is known in Awakening Together. Look at Lesson 2. Lesson 2 isn't like, oh, that's a novel idea. It's describing an activity unbeknownst to us. You and I are giving everything all the meaning it has. That's what it's describing, yeah? It's describing an activity that we are, which is we're meaning givers, not Paul or Mary or Jim. That's something that's been given a meaning. We are meaning givers, yes? Coming through. And the meaning is going to have a lot to do with what it comes through. If it comes through this idea of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, you're going to give everything that's appearing to you to be real so that you get a sort of reflection that you're real. There'll be an agenda, like an unwritten contract. I'll take this to be real, therefore I'm real. Yes? And there you go. How are you going to get out of that as that? Why waste time questioning how many universes, multidimensional universes? Why not question you? You know, the famous "Who am I?" You just showed a lot of pictures. Well, the way I heard Ramana, he basically didn't say anything, and it realized that wasn't getting through. So then he brought an old thing out of the Vedas called self-inquiry. Vedas being the oldest scriptures in the world, and he presented it again, and he gave it new life, and he basically said, this is it, yeah? If it ain't silence, this is it. This is the only way, because if not, we're going to fall into that sort of mistake, which is this non-existent thing that's been called Paul, that's looking salvation for Paul, yeah? If that's the case, all of Paul's spiritual practices are reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? Yeah? So they're putting an assumption we may not be aware of as a fact, and then they're just explaining what happens on top of that fact. Yeah? And that fact is not a fact. Yeah? The fact is we're identified as something that we're not. And therefore, we're using what we are to look for what we are as what we're not. So the whole point is when this part of the puzzle dropped on me when I was introduced to non-duality, once that was shown, I've never moved from there. Because without seeing this, you're looking from it. You are. Yeah? Without seeing it, all those examples of the conundrum of why am I not arriving at where I'm fervently wanting to get to my whole life aren't being your self-reality. Yeah? So it's explained with a seamless logic, not of the mental state, the clarity of negation. Yes? The clarity of negation. There's an assumed fact that we're living from. Yeah? And without questioning that, we're going to be living as an assumed fact, and we're going to take a lot of false evidence to appear real. Yeah? We are. Because we don't have any ability to discriminate from true or false because we're based on a false premise. How can we see everything so clearly if we're not seeing this clearly? So in a way, it was beautiful. It just brought it home. And I remember people would call me and say, oh, you missed a great teacher. And I was, hallelujah. Yeah, I fucking missed a great teacher from San Francisco. Are you signing up for the next 8-month seminar? No, I'm not signing up for anything. I'm here fucking whittling wood, or something. Yeah. It was like a drug addict getting weaned off. Yeah. But I had a short cold turkey because I was convinced of the futility of using Paul, that which I'm not, to look and using what I am in the hands of what I'm not to find what I am. It was just came super clear that that's not working, and it's not going to work. And actually, it's real working like any other failed system is to show me it's failed. Yeah, and it did beautifully. Yeah, to the point it became a moot point. Yes. I don't care if someone comes around and has 12 rotating eyes flaming with the eternal flame, of the transcendental whatever. I could care less, really. Yeah? I could. You know what I mean? It's just dog shit awareness. You never get gypped. You're awake to being awake. Yeah? You're not trying to be awake as Paul to being awake. You're awake to being awake because there's been a loss of interest in Paul. Really. See? Yeah. So, I'm like a cod salesman. If you come back, that's what you're going to get. Cod, C-O-D. You could grill it, we'll maybe sushi it, bake it, put some breadcrumbs, but I'd rather not do that. It's best straight. And that's it. We're a cod salesman. We're not bringing in mackerel and salmon. Oh, we don't have the catch of the day. It's basically cod 24/7. Yeah. Yeah. If any news breaks, I'll call you guys up. I've changed my ways. There's some guy in Omaha. He's it. He's the savior. I'm going to go there and hopefully I can shine his shoes and shit. Yeah. I feel like, I was there and I did that. And that period, though rather short, has been over for a long time. I really feel it's more a loss of interest than a gaining of interest. Yeah. I think the gaining of interest is part of the illness. Yeah. I do. I noticed that in a lot of topics. My own self-interest to get better was making me more sick. Yeah. It was a rude awakening, but I had a few of them. Yeah, I had this one, if you don't mind. I don't know if I told you this one. I had trouble with digestion for a while, and you know what most people do? They end up gluten-free sooner or later. But this is way before that. So I was trying to take beneficial flora, yes? And there was one that came out of Canada, and they had it in Whole Foods, and we used to call it Whole Paycheck, and in Whole Foods, and it came in little milk bottles, and it was so sweet. It had 15 trillion beneficial floras. You know, the others had 8 billion. It doubled it, and it was like $42 for a 6-pack. So I started buying them every week, drinking them. Yep. Now, of course, I was thinking maybe I'm changing. Who knows? But it was just because I didn't want to look like a complete asshole spending thousands of dollars not getting any results. So I was hoping and stuff. So I decided to get in touch with Smoky Mountain Labs in Tennessee. They're probably still around. They do. They'll go through your stool specimen and tell you what's going on inside. Yeah. So they send you an application, and everyone puts parasite first thing. You know, I want to see if there's any parasites. And I wrote down. I sent the three specimen examples, sent it to Tennessee. Couldn't wait to get the information back. So I get the information back. I have no parasites. Hallelujah. It's great. Then I look at signs of beneficial flora. Now I had 80 billion migrants in this little intestinal farm area. I brought tons of beneficial intestinal citizenry there. Yeah, tons. All right, signs of beneficial flora, 0.00. What? 0.00? Now that totally bummed me out. How? And then it was explained what came after. And in non-duality, how it's explained is what comes before. But in this case, what came after. And then it informed me there was these 2 forms of bacteria in my gut that loved beneficial flora. They loved it. They ate it all up. So I was catering to these 2 bacterias, giving them gourmet freaking intestinal floras, 15 billion a week. They were chomping it down. They didn't have to call up for a fucking order. I went out and got it for them. Yeah? This is what it's like. Yeah? It makes no sense. I did all this shit. There's no sign of it because I had to read what came after. In this, the beauty of non-duality is what's before, being ourselves reality. That's the explanation for all the other shit. Yes? You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait after 30 years realizing nothing fucking's changed. You can see it now. Yeah? And then whatever you love to do it for the love of it. Yeah? But don't look at it as a vehicle of the transcending gods. You're not going anywhere. You're not. Yeah? You're here completely. If you want to find yourself, stop. Really. You're right here completely. Unadorned, unclothed, doesn't need any fucking necklaces or anklet bracelets. It's just dog shit awareness. You're awake. You were awake before you had the first thought about how you want to become awake. You are before that awake. Yeah? That's the beauty of non-duality. It's a negation of all that which comes after. And all that which comes after, in its story, it says it's before, and it ain't. The idea of you is an afterthought. Yes? It's an afterthought. It is not that which is before. It is that which comes after. Yeah? And non-duality is that which is before, basically. Yeah? And I haven't found anything before that. I haven't. Not that I've been looking. But I haven't found anything before that. Really. So that's the message, 2021, 2030, 2011. It's the same. Yeah? Yeah. There's a The idea of you is manufactured in about a second and a half, probably, maybe even less. Yes? So every time you have a conscious contact with something, the mental state arises, claims that contact, and says it was you that was in contact. So instead of feeling the life of seeing, you have a story of being the seer. Yeah? And that story takes the place of seeing. Yeah? And it's dry. Yeah, that's why people are driven to try to do something extreme to get a feeling of just being alive right now. Yeah. I mean, it was fun in the 20s, but when you have to be wheelchaired to the cliff before you jump off with the squirrel suit, it's getting a little, you might as well find a different way, you know? You can't take the bruises anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, perhaps there's an easier way. Yeah, no way. That's the easiest one. I think you've done enough, all of you probably. You probably have. There's 9 squares here. Maybe there's others, but let's say these 9 squares. I would say 200 years of stuff probably. Yeah, at least 10, at least 10 years each square. So let's say that's 90, and I would say way more. Yeah, yeah, way more. All right, so you've already done enough. Yeah, you have in a way. If you want to keep doing it, it's great. I mean, I like a lot of shit. Yeah, I do. I like hearing the sound bowls. Yeah, I like kirtan, but I don't listen to kirtan to go somewhere. I listen to it when it's here. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we've all done enough, and maybe we'll keep doing it. But then you'll see what's a non-doing. It isn't not doing anything. It's that there's no identification as the doer. There's just the doing. So doing awakening together is incredible. Being a doer of awakening together is bondage. Yes. Yeah. You see, the doer sense is where the bondage is. It's not what you do. It's the who that thinks it's the doer. Yeah, in a lot of ways. So yeah, if anyone has anything they like to share or whatever.
Paul,
Yes.
um, thank you. What you're saying, of course, resonates with me, but I'm very surprised how much fear comes up when you say give up the search, stop.
Well, then don't.
Right, but what is that?
Who cares? If it's too much, don't, this isn't like you're going to blow your opportunity. You can't lose. Yeah. So the fear is all based on you're going to make a terrible mistake either way. It's not true. Yeah. Search, seek, or don't seek. It doesn't matter. Look at how many friends you meet through seeking. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, hey, the fear is too much. What you meant? You're supposed to gird your loins and go into battle? No, who says that? Yeah. Just chill out and be nice to yourself a little bit. Yeah, the invitation's always available. You can show up for it tomorrow. You're not missing anything, you see, because really, if you get a free sample of this, which is readily available, but let's say a profound one. It was one of the ones happened with me. It told me it's always been this way. So all the idea of missing, longing, it had nothing to do with it. This is not a time-based conclusion. It's already completely so now. Yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. So here, let's say going to not awakening together. Let's say awakening alone. Yeah, I don't want to be with folks, so I'm in awakening alone. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm gonna meet, or I won't meet people because I'm alone, but you know what I mean? There's gonna be fringe benefits that are healthy and stuff. Yeah, community and stuff like that. You see other people's view of the same jewel, not like there's different jewels. Yes? And you'll find a lot of joy when you take that little spiritual focus myopic view off. Yeah?
Mm.
Yeah. And sometimes the best food I've run into were at retreats, especially in America. I would go to this one retreat, we used to call it the upper middle way. I didn't want to leave. They had incredible food 3 times a day. Yeah. So you meet a lot of, Jesus Christ, I've heard great sound, music, a lot of things. Yeah. But, seeking is just an activity. It's the idea of the seeker. That's where the bondage lies, yeah? And I only discovered for me, my head took spiritual seeking to be incredibly noble. So there was a big amount of bondage concerning that topic. Yes? It wasn't like, going to the thrift store or New York Yankee blogs or something. No, it was really noble, and I'm going to, my girlfriend would want to go horizontal with me, and I'd be practicing. No, I have no time for that now. I was like saying no to these beautiful invitations because I was on a noble pursuit. Yeah. And it just made, the bondage was unbelievable. So in this case, basically, the most noble topic I thought was spirituality. So this was essential to lose interest in that. Yeah. It was because it was casting a big reflection. And I thought meditation was so much more important than doing the dishes and shit like that. I had an incredible imbalance going on. Yeah. And so that was going to collapse sooner or later. Yeah. Thank God it did it sooner. I would have hate to have waken up after 40 years and realized nothing's happened. Yeah. I'd rather realize that now. Yeah. So seriously, you know. So yeah, this is the whole point. It's about the seeker, not the seeking. It's about the feeler, not the feelings. Yeah, some feelings motivate a drive to get out of them. I have no problem with that. Some feelings motivate a drive to want to have more of them. But what the bondage isn't in there, the bondage is in being the seeker, the being the feeler. Yes, because the thoughts get their power from you through the idea of being the thinker. Yeah? The thoughts don't have any power. They're given power by us. Yeah? By the ownership of the thoughts, they now have the ability to own us. Yeah? So the absence of my leaves an incredible amount of space. Yeah? Yeah. So, and we just fool around because people, when you're sharing a message, you're prodding a little bit with an electrical little, and you can recognize people getting triggered, yeah? And then I have a sadistic bent in me, and I like to, a little more, maybe. Come on. I'm working on it. It's maybe a blind spot in me. But I've surrendered it, and I think it's put to great use, really. Really, seriously. I don't see the urban renewal project called Paul was shut down years ago. And whatever is you've been always using me is using me today. Yeah. And yeah. So yeah, honey, don't make it a big deal, really. Yeah. If something feels like I can't take it, back off. What the fuck? Yeah. Really, this isn't about sacrifice and shit. It isn't. That's an old story. I thought the Course in Miracles speaks about that a lot. This isn't about sacrifice. Yeah. Martyrdom. None of that. Yeah.
You know,
If
Paul, You said that you had a sadistic bent, but I've started, even though I'm not an AA or a 12-step person, I've started listening to your 12-step programs you have, the podcasts.
Yeah, yeah.
They are just wonderful. And I've never heard such your compassion and your love just comes out in those
Yeah, well, keep that
podcasts.
down. Keep that down.
and you do so much non-dual teaching in those 12 step, and the way the examples you use, and they're just brilliant. They're satsangs in themselves, each one. They're just wonderful.
We're trying to slip them a Mickey, you see. You bring it, if you don't put a little mayonnaise on it, they're gonna say no to it. You gotta slip it to them. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. I love uh, I love those recovery zooms. Yeah, yeah. Because addicts and alcoholics are extreme examples of a life run on self will. Yeah. And so, what in some people would be sort of disguised in the grass, it's usually it's brought into stark contrast in an addictive life. Yeah, you can see what you're not very clearly. Yeah, unfortunately, you usually don't see it when it's occurring, but if you don't die from that lifestyle, you're going to have some knowledge that's valuable. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I relate to the 12 steps, I find, because just like you said, how low can I go with the cocaine? Well, how low can I go with my wanting something different, searching for something I think I'll never find? So, on some level, I just feel myself relating to those 12 steps and how you.
Yeah, because some people have changed the word drinking to thinking, and they present it that way. Yeah, and AA, its target was a specific target, which was the insanity that precedes the first drink for real addicts and real alcoholics. But basically, it's been branched out, and there's over 100 different types of groups that use the 12 steps, and it would probably be a damn good way for most action figures to live by. Yeah, it's pretty sound principles. It came from a lot of sources. Yeah, like the guy, one of the code, and to me, the whole recovery big book was a download. Yeah, definitely. And but I know the guy who was the co-founder worked with Young and all these people, Carl Young and stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of power in recovery. Yes. So yeah, but the idea is, they got to the point of clarity of, in a broad way, what was defeating them, which was self. This feeling of being Paul, and this, or what some people would call an ego. The way we hold the idea of the sense of self is more the feeling or the sense of being the seer when seeing is noticed. Yeah. When hearing is happening, the sense that you're a hearer, that's manufactured from the hearing. Yeah. That to me is the sense of self. Is a sense of ownership of a lot of stuff you don't own. Yeah. 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 And it's a great disguise for things to take you over in life, because when something else is manifesting through you, you'll be calling them yours. Yeah. So that the host, the parasite convinces the host that it's the host, so the parasite never gets addressed. It just lives as the host for 30 years. Yeah. Sucks it dry. Yeah. So, and then when I went to other groups, I saw spiritual addiction. It's very similar. Yeah. People, uh, there's such a stubbornness of, of here things come up, yeah? To be in a forced posture of denying of that mutates the whole event. While you're here, it's best to let things have their time on the stage, yes? And then they'll come and go. Yeah, but most of us are not in an accepting manner. We're resisting and fighting and want things to be different, yes? And that produces a mutation, a lot of mutations of the mental condition, yeah? Where we get lost in dealing with the individual branches and we're missing the tree. So there's a bondage to this idea of being Paul, yeah, that causes a desire to get out of Paul. The dilemma is as Paul, yeah, and Paul can't get out of Paul. So yeah, I hadn't been in, I've been trying to get out of my here since I was 6 years old, and that ended about, I don't know, a long time ago now. Yeah, but I was constantly trying to get out of how I felt or where I thought I was. Yeah, by reading, drinking, practicing, and all the failures of the system because of the reaction as self, it would just became self-punishment. I didn't do enough. Yes, I always found the fault in the system as me, where it's really a system that's failed. Yes, yeah. You're not where you want to be because you haven't done enough. That's a complete lie. Complete lie. Yeah, yeah. My feeling. So to someone else it may not be, but in my case it's a complete lie. Yeah. Yeah. I really feel like tons of shit happens, but nothing ever really happened because the basis of what we are hasn't been interrupted or changed or affected by any of the shenanigans that are going on. Really. And I feel you can come to a point where you're resting assured of that. Yeah. 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 The action figure gets late, but it comes to the table eventually. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It gives it up. I mean, for years, I was sharing about you're going to get nothing, but my little head was thinking, no, I'm going to get something. But then it got clear one day, no, I'm going to get fucking nothing. And it was still dragged to the meetings. Yeah. Now it realizes it's not going to get anything, and it sort of got okay around that. Yeah. 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 So, yes. Thank you, honey. Hey, Glenda, really. Uh, the permission is already given. Yeah, you're okay, eh? Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's nothing that has to be convinced. That which you think has to be convinced isn't. Yeah. This is like in Zen, this is the gateless gate. There's no gatekeeper, there's no toll booth. Yeah, you don't have to pay to enter. It's the gateless gate. It's the open secret. How could it be a secret if it's open? Exactly. Yeah. These are ways of trying to imply the immediacy of what we think we're looking for, the immediacy of it now. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. All right. Thanks, Glenda. Anyone else? No? No. I think my contractual commitment is to 5:30, so I got 18 minutes.
Rhoda's got a question, I think.
Oh, I just,
Loving gaze.
I'm sorry.
Let's practice loving gaze.
Oh, let's do that.
Come on, Rhoda.
Loving, 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 loving. Seeking, seeking nothing. It's a good thing I forgot. So
That's great.
I I think what you said at the very beginning just is kind of feeling really alive right now, which is I'll probably get the words all wrong, but what it feels like is basically everything's made up. And that's the end of that story.
You know, there's a guy that comes to the talks we have, and I really liked his twist of mind. And he said, when you see that this is a dream, it's more real than ever, which is true. Yeah. I mean, it goes up to really HD Technicolor. Yeah. It's beautiful how that goes. Yeah. So you see through the reality of it, and then it appears to be quote unquote more real than ever. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's no meaning anymore.
There's just yes. It's like most of the horses have a saddle on it. Then some new horses come in with no saddle, yeah, in your life. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a different kind of ride. So your mind is freed from this fucking pedantic logic and it's open. Yeah. Yeah. Your aperture self is like a setting of an aperture of the mind, yeah? So you get sort of locked in, and then it tells you, it tries to inform you of all that you're not seeing and stuff like that. But when you lose interest in that self, the aperture opens more, yeah? And more gets revealed. And a lot of what gets revealed is what you're not. You see the activities that you used to look from, yeah? You see them because you're now located where you've always been, which is before the activity. Yeah. If you keep appearing after the activity, you're under the influence of the activity. I'm just telling you. It's before. So the freedom from the bondage of self is before the bondage. It's not after the bondage. It's before it. Yeah? Yeah. The before of what we are is the untouched. It's the invulnerability that the Course says about your attack thoughts or attacking your invulnerability. That's before. Yeah, that's the before. Yeah, yeah. So it's not, you don't go far to get stationed there. It's right here now. And then you start seeing shit you used to look from. You do. You start seeing the assumptions that make up the interpretation. Yeah? Yeah. You start seeing it. Yeah. Seeing it, awareness of it. Yeah. And it's not you that's aware. You see that. That's a mechanical claiming of the seeing, turning it into it was you looking. Yeah. No, there's just seeing of that. Yeah. So you catch it a few times, and after a while, there's like the 100 monkey phenomena. There's a certain something builds up, not based. Let's say you get 5 whacks and they all weigh 5 pounds, then suddenly there's like a 300-pound whack. Yeah, there's a leap. You don't have to keep getting 5-pound whacks. Those 25 pounds turn into a 300-pound whack. Yeah, and then you don't have to, you know. Be attentive to the activity because you've lost interest in it. Yeah, you've seen it as mechanical. If you can see, most people believe it's volitional. They're thinking they're doing this shit that's binding them. You're not. Yeah, you're not doing it. There's a doing of it, but it's not you doing it. Yeah, it's mechanical. And thank God, I don't think it's AI. It's more program. So it's not evolving. It's basically a programming of what's happening gets claimed, and then it's used to make up a story of noun and verb, yeah, which is duality. And non-duality is just a negation of that whole assumption and all that which riffs off of that assumption. It's negating that noun verb. Basically, all there is verbing. Yes? Yeah. So there isn't a subject object, there's subjectivity. Yeah? But there's no subject object. And the subject is not the subjectivity. The subject is an object that thinks the subjectivity is an attribute it has. That's subject object. Subject is not subjectivity, though subjectivity is the base. Yeah? So you see, there's a loss of interest in subject object, and then subjectivity becomes clearer. Not that it isn't clear, it seems to become clearer. Yeah. Yeah. So it's sort of like you arrive at the positive through a negation. You don't arrive at the positive by constantly positively affirming the positive. That's just reinforcing what you're not. You arrive at the positive through the negation of the assumptions. Yes? So you see what you're not and you find out what you are. And then seeing what you're not still gets produced, you see. You believed it's about you, and if you would change, it would stop. It doesn't stop. It's mechanical. Yeah? A sense of self, you're going to be living, and right, a little lagging, but right next to you will be a narration or an interpretation of the living. It is, yeah? But now, instead of listening to that, you'll be hearing it. It's a completely different event. When you're listening to it, you're in the mix. There's an identification as it. When you're hearing it, it's like a radio in another room. Yeah? It could be annoying, but to who? Yeah? Yes. So you, with interest, can't lose interest in yourself. Yeah? You can't lose interest in the listening to that. That would be more listening. Yeah? Yeah. It comes about in a different way. There's a loss of interest in the one who thinks has the interest. That's where the loss of interest lies. Yeah? You trying to lose interest in all these things is a huge amount of interest in the you're not. So you've had that, obviously. So now you step back even farther, and finally it works. Yeah. Wow. Becomes the last answer. Hallelujah. Yeah. Now you live. See what happens. You forget everything pretty much. Literally. Yeah. Every day is pretty much like an Etch-a-Sketch. It just gets shook up, and then the next day more lines appear. Then Etch-a-Sketch, more lines appear. Nothing's lasting except what we are. We're like that uninterrupted note that plays through every orchestral maneuver. Yeah, yeah, we're that. So, I like to hear that note while you're living in the cacophony of shit appearing and disappearing. Yes? Yeah, it does a whole lot for what you're not. It allows the action figure to be chilled instead of being preemptively anxious. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I got run over by a car twice in the same night. Now, could you imagine if I worried for 20 years because I was afraid that I was going to get run over? It was better because I didn't think I would ever get run over, and then I got run over. It was just much cleaner. You know what I mean? And in a way, it was probably a lot less suffering than if I would have had an anxiety about getting run over by a car for 20 years. Really. The actual getting run over, and I got run over twice by the same car. That's pretty hard to do, even if you set out to do it. It's difficult to get run over twice by the same car in the same night on the same road. So but in hindsight, at least it was quick and all of a sudden, and then I got over it. down the road. Yeah, instead of being fucking burdened by 20 years of anxiety of, you know. Yeah. So. Yeah. Glenda, you have permission. Paul has permission. George has permission. Permission is not an earning. You don't acquire it by being a good scout, and having enough merit badges. Yeah. It's freely given. Yeah. The mental state is what claims it's taken it away. And the mental state is playing God with it. Yeah. How many times have we withheld ourselves waiting for the perfect person? Yeah. Instead of the Stephen Stills song, "Love the one you're with," in a weird way. I'm not saying go horizontal with everybody, but love the one you're with. Yeah. The head likes this whole idea of withholding as if it's going to spring open when the one shows up. No, that's going to turn into arthritis. You're not going to open. Yeah? You've concaved in. You're in a state of withholding, and now you're withheld from. You've got to beg permission to have a nice day. Slavery to me, complete slavery. Yeah. So I see a lot of people in the Zooms, yeah? And some of them who I really, really like, I can see there's a withholding of permission. For some reason, they believe that they did something they shouldn't have done, or that they haven't done something they should have done, and they've been just on like a weird probation for years, yes? Trying to get permission just to be fucking okay, yeah? They're not even going for the transcendence anymore, yes? There's just this little idea is playing God. Yeah. So sometimes they look at me as an authority, so I speak from that false assumption and I say, hey, listen, I give you permission, man. You're okay. And then my friend starts crying and she lets it all out. Yeah? That wasn't me. She sees me as something. So there's, okay, do you need a permission? Here's a permission. Yeah? Get used to it. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. We could make it a big ritual, yes. The receiving of permission. I'll dress in a certain way. We'll have some gongs. Maybe that, ritual is good. It's a convincing event. Yeah? But I don't have the wardrobe here, so I'm just telling you, Glenda, you have permission. Yes? If the fear gets too much, respond in kind. Back off. Watch Bloodline on Netflix or something. Yeah? Who's telling you? Who's whipping you from behind? Really? Yes, something's playing God, whipping you to the finish line. There ain't no finish line. Yeah, it's just going to add more obstacles to the course and more hoops to jump through. You're never going to be enough. Seriously, honey, because you're everything now. You got to just, yeah. And I'm not speaking directly to you, Glenda, unless it fits, but yeah. I saw it in my own life, yes. My head was a fucking heavy duty gatekeeper. Yeah, and it was keeping tabs of all the tolls. And it had a huge, huge ledger of my debits. Yeah. And to live under that tyranny, I didn't even have a fucking space to breathe. The only way I could have any fun was to get loaded. Yeah. The only way I could get out. Yeah, and then that had its own problems. Yes. Yes, big ones. So, yeah. Yeah. So, hey, all right. I think it's time. We overran it. 3 minutes. Anyone else have anything to say, or we'll just patch it up. I'm really enjoying this, but I didn't want to make a commitment because well, let's just take it a Tuesday at a time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and yeah, thanks. Are we going to end or do we?